So we open the episode with Peggy, Bud, and Kelly making fun of how little Al makes at work as they steal money from his wallet. Now, I don't usually feel bad for Al, but yeah, this is messed up. Welcome back to another episode of The Rank. I'm John, and today we're going to be ranking the next episode of Married with Children. Now, for those of you who are new to the show, or just for some reason don't remember how this works, I'm going to give you the agenda. First, I start with the potent notables, which are just a couple interesting facts or tidbits that I found out about the episode or show. Then I go into the episode overview, which is just me talking about everything that happened in the episode. Then I do the namesake of the show, The Rank, where I rank the episode on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best, in 5 different categories, all to find out what is the best sitcom of all time. So we take sitcoms, we're doing 5 series right now, we rank every single episode of that series, and then the average of those episodes gives us the rank for the series. Now today we're ranking the 21st episode of the second season of Married with Children, titled Father Lode, written by Jerry Persigian and directed by Linda Day. Now if you're enjoying these episodes, you're just a fan of Married with Children and you like consuming content about it, please consider subscribing and or following. Like the episode, comment, you can even shoot me an email at info@therankpodcast.com. You can ask questions, give me suggestions, whatever, I will respond to you. If you super duper like it, please also consider becoming a patron on our Patreon site at patreon.com/therankpodcast. But without further ado, let's find out how this episode ranked, starting with the potent notables.
Potent notables.
So this episode aired Sunday, March 13th, 1988. Married with Children had a strong rating, going from a 4.6 to a 5.7, and almost having the best rating of the night for Fox. 21 Jump Street only just barely beat it at a 6. Obviously, it lost to all its competition, including Super Carrier on ABC, which had a 12.1, Day by Day on NBC, which had a 14.4, and the winner of the night, Murder, She Wrote, on CBS with a whopping 21.2. Now, I do want to point out, for those of you that are maybe new and haven't heard this in the beginning, but Fox wasn't not in everybody's household, so it getting a 5.7 is a pretty big deal. All right, so for my next potent notable here, I'm going to give some credit to Looper because I'm going to be taking it directly from them. So we're going to talk Married with Children merchandise. So as often happens with many successful shows, companies were quick to purchase the rights to produce Married with Children merchandise, and continued to do so even years after the show aired its final episode. The toy company Mego, or Mego, I'm not really sure, for example, launched a series of action figures based on the show's main cast. Years later, Funko got in on the action, releasing a set of vinyl pop figures of each member of the family. But probably the most interesting project of this type was Electric Tikis, which featured Al, Peggy, and Kelly Bundy reimagined as cartoons. So Married with Children merchandise includes far more than figures, though. Toy company GMP released a die-cast version of the red convertible Mustang the family tries to win in a game show on last episode, 2 weeks ago that we did, Just Married with Children. Galoob sold a trivia-based board game, while books about Al's famous Bundyisms and a cookbook based on Peggy's recipes were also published, together with several comic books by Now Comics. But the most unusual Married with Children merchandise was arguably released in Germany, where fans were able to acquire remixes of the main theme as well as German-dubbed audio plays. So there you go. Thought that was kind of fun. Those are the potent notables. Let's go to the episode overview. So we open the episode with Peggy, Bud, and Kelly making fun of how little Al makes at work as they steal money from his wallet. Now, I don't usually feel bad for Al, but yeah, this is messed up. I don't really get how you can complain about him not making enough money when you literally take the money he makes and spend it on frivolous things. Sometimes it's hard to be on Peggy's side. Steve's gonna come over and lighten the mood though, because he's talking about how beautiful the day is and how isn't it great to be alive. Al responds by saying, "Let me stand aside and give you a better look at the little woman." Now, if we hadn't just had the scene previous, I would have felt a little bad for Peg, but it definitely got me. I like that they give us a little context this time. But why is Steve there? Always a good question. But in this case, it's because Al and him are going to the track. Peg says that's where all his money goes. He says he doesn't think so because he's never seen a quarter horse rifling through his wallet in the middle of the night. Naturally, Al's got a lot less money to bet with than he did before, thanks to the pilfering of his wallet by his wife and kids. Nevertheless, Al comes home later in a panic with Steve trying to console him. Of course, the audience is meant to believe that he lost all their money, but no. He's panicked because he actually won big. So Al's got $1,200 and he's got to figure out how he can spend it without Peggy and the kids knowing he had it in the first place. Steve ends up whittling him down to $1,050 because he keeps blackmailing Al into giving him another $50 to keep him quiet. Of course, the reason Steve is having trouble keeping quiet is because he also won some money, and Al doesn't want him to tell Marcy. So this is the part I don't really understand. Why not just let Steve tell Marcy about the money that Steve won? He could just say Al didn't win or not say anything about Al, because I doubt Marcy would ask. But Al makes a mistake. He forgets to cash his paycheck, which piques the suspicion of Peg. So she and the kids tear the house apart looking for the money that they know Al has. Meanwhile, Al has to keep having sex with Peggy to keep her from looking at things that he's hid the money in, much to his chagrin. Which, again, is just so weird, Al. Weird Al, that's fun. Now, before she finds out about the money, Al decides to buy a new car stereo because his got stolen in this episode. Naturally, before he can put it in, he finds out that Peggy's car has to be in the shop for 2 weeks, which means she's gonna have to drive his car, which means she's gonna notice a new stereo. So now he's looking to sell it. And for some reason, Steve wants to buy it, and he shorts him $50. So Al bought it for $1,050. Steve's gonna give him $1,000. So now Steve has $150 of Al's money and gets another $50 in savings, and Al takes the $1,000 and just shakes it at the bottom of the stairs to entice his family to come downstairs. I actually really enjoyed this bit because they just come down the stairs like, whoa, what was that sound? He says it was what he always knew he'd end up doing with the money, giving it to his family, who promptly refused to even get him anything with it. So nice. But Al's gonna get a little bit of a win when Marcy finds $150 hidden by Steve, and Al saves Steve by saying, oh, Marcy, it wasn't Steve. He was hiding it for me. He was hiding it on my behalf, which means he gets his $150 back. That was an enjoyable moment where Al actually gets one over on somebody at the end. Also, it made me sad for how much buying power $150 gave you back then. Now that's like nothing. Anyway, that's how the episode ended. Let's see how it ranked.
A rank.
So the rank is where I rank the episode based on 5 categories: story, acting, dialogue, episode coherence, and character relatability. I rank it on a scale of 1 to 5, 1 being the worst, 5 being the best. And then I have a laugh counter where I tally up the amount of times that the episode made me laugh out loud. 1 point per laugh out loud gets added to the score, and that gets our final ranking score. But before I dive into the rankings here, I just want to say if you're enjoying this episode, please leave a like down below. It really does help the show grow. But the first category is story, which I gave a 4.25. I thought this was a pretty good story. Al wins money at the track, which is a bad thing for him because he's afraid that his family will take it from him. It's a weird story for a traditional family sitcom type show, but for Married with Children, it's great. So let's go to acting, which I gave a 4. I thought everyone was really good in this. It's tough because I don't know that this show will ever get a 5 in this category, just basically because David Faustino and Amanda Bierce just aren't really that good of actors to me, but maybe I'll end up being surprised someday. I hope I do. So let's go to dialogue, which I gave a 4.5. I thought this episode had a lot of good laughs in it. There's still the typical Bundy ridiculousness, but there were a lot of funny lines sprinkled into this one. It's one of those things that is really good because it fits so well with this show, but in a vacuum, maybe wouldn't be as good. Let's go to episode coherence, which I gave a 4.25. This felt very true to the characters. I really like that Al comes around to just giving his family the money. It's begrudging, but he says it's what he always knew he was going to end up doing. I prefer the begrudging family man character to the just straight misogynist character that they make him be sometimes. The only part that I felt was strange was the whole keeping Steve quiet part. I don't know, that felt like an unnecessary plot line to me, but I did enjoy the comeuppance at the end though. So let's go to character relatability, which I give a 4. It'll probably never be a perfectly relatable show because, you know, the Bundys are a little too harsh on each other, but I can relate to wanting to spend on myself and wanting to be selfish while ultimately recognizing that the money should go to my family. Though the family's refusal to sniff selflessness is tough. Even still, I don't think that's entirely unrelatable. All right, so that gets us to the laugh counter. We've had a pretty decent ranking, so it's not going to take much for it to be in the top 3 tiers. Actually, I think it might be closer to the top 2, but the laugh counter is an 18, so pretty darn high. This puts the episode total at a 39, which makes it a holy grail. For the series, the average is now at a 33.3, which keeps the series as an I'd watch it again. So thanks for listening and or watching. If you'd like to see a list of our episode and series rankings, you can do that on our website at therankpodcast.com. Remember to subscribe, review, and comment, and please consider supporting us on our Patreon site at patreon.com/therankpodcast, where you can get access to all of our archived episodes. And remember, if you did like the episode, please leave a like down below. I know it sounds silly, but it really does help us. So I will leave you with this. What's the difference between the mother lode and the father lode? The mother lode made people rich. The father lode made Al broke.
Is that a sexual innuendo of some kind?
Also, 21 Jump Street had no competition from the major networks because it was on at 7, and the major networks always started their stuff at 8 usually, although 60 Minutes was on at 7, I believe. Hold on, let me just check that.
2 hours later.
Okay, so I was wrong about that.
And surprise, surprise.